So this is a desk riser that we made for my desk at work, as I needed to be able to have 4 monitors sitting on the desk at one time. Because the width of my desk didn't allow for this, we built this stand to be able to hold 2 of the monitors above the other ones, thereby giving me just enough space to squeeze in 4 monitors. As usual, we started out by building the framework of the box, making sure to leave the back side open so that we were free to construct the hidden inner drawer underneath the desktop. While we waited for the glue to dry on the framing, we went ahead and cut out the hexagons that would form the honeycomb pattern on the front of the riser. Once we were done cutting them out on the bandsaw, we laid them out on the front of the faceboard by tracing their patterns and then giving them numbers so that we knew where each one needed to be placed. After that, all we had to do was glue and nail them down. Next, we started working on the drawer, which we designed with angled edges to give it a nice aesthetic look for when it's pushed out. A point worthy of noting here is that we chose to encapsulate the bookends of the riser between the walls of the stand. We did this mainly because we needed a way to give the illusion that the ends of the riser didn't move, while also helping facilitate the push-to-open locks that we'd be using later on. Honestly though, the hardest part to building the drawer was getting the push-to-open locks properly distanced from the back of the drawer. We ended up putting in 3 separate locks along with a fabricated large spring, as the weight of the drawer ended up being too heavy for the locks to push out all on their own. In order to give the sides of the riser a little flair, I decided to build 2 hexagon shelves to cap off the ends. These were fairly standard hexagon shelves that you can find several tutorials on how to make online. One thing I'd like to mention about ours, however, is that they are much stronger than the other types you'll find on YouTube. This is because most tutorials just have you build the sides of the hexagon shells, nail them together, and then call it good. We, on the other hand, put a thin 1/8 inch back on the rear sides of the shelves, and then poured some blue epoxy into the recesses. Without these 2 features, I can say with absolute certainty that the shelves would not have been as rock solid as they were. Alright, so this is where this project took a dark turn. Our original plan was to pour the epoxy in between all the hexagons to keep the natural wood color showing. And while we did succeed at first in accomplishing this goal, we did not take into account the sheer leakiness of the epoxy. Our biggest mistake was thinking that all of the clamping and taping that we did was enough to keep the epoxy from leaking. But this simply wasn't the case. We ended up doing 4 separate repours on the whole box, trying to get a nice layer going. But after every new pour that we did, we kept coming back to a goopy mess. So eventually, we just decided to put a light coat over the whole thing, which ended up turning out really nice once we got it all cleaned up.